Welcome to Team SNG Deck Profile. Today we're going to be talking about Time Thieves. This deck's basically a rank 4 spam toolbox type deck that aims to go into the Time Thief XYZ monsters who have different ways of removing cards from your opponent's field, and possibly even from their deck. While I have your attention, I would like to ask you guys, do leave us a like, comment, and subscribe. We're almost at 100 subscribers. Once we get there, I do have a special announcement for the channel that will hopefully let you get involved and give you a chance to have your decks featured here on this channel. Also, check out Team's Facebook page. Link to that will be in the description down below. As I've already stated, Time Thieves are a XYZ based deck. They're based around rank 4 XYZ. There's two that they use, Perpetua and Time Thief Redoer. Now we do have a rank 4 toolbox in the extra deck because why wouldn't we? And we run a few extra cards in the main deck that act as extenders. So let's just get into it. Starting off with the monsters, the first monster we run is Time Thief Winder. Time Thief Winder is the basic searcher for the deck. When it is normal or special summoned, you get to add a Time Thief card from your deck to your hand. Also, if you detach a XYZ material from an XYZ monster while this is in your hand, you get to special summon this. So this sort of lets you build bodies on board, it lets you extend. So he's a bit generic extender for the deck, but at the same time he also searches out and allows us to get into our spells, our traps, or any of the other Time Thief cards we might really want to find ourselves with in our hand. Next, the main play starter for the archetype, Time Thief Regulator. Time Thief Regulator, if it's normal summoned, acts as a Time Thief Rescue Rabbit. You can tribute it as long as you control no other monsters, and special summon 2 Time Thief monsters from your deck. So that'll let you special summon something like Winder, but it'll also then let you special summon something like Bezel Ship or Chronocorder, which we'll get into in 2 seconds. But it cannot special summon itself, which is also another limitation that it has. On top of that, when an XYZ monster is destroyed, while this is in your graveyard, you can special summon this back, but it will be banished when it leaves the field. So typically if you're going to use its special summon back effect, you're going to want to use its special summon back effect to then overlay it into another rank 4 XYZ. Next are the aforementioned Bezel Ship, we run 2 copies of that, and the aforementioned Chronocorder, we run 2 copies of that. The reason we run 2 copies of each of these is I kept finding during playtesting that I was seeing one, when I was running 1 copy each, I've kept seeing it in my opening hand, and you don't want them in your opening hand. You want to either search them out with Regulator, or you want to search them out with Winder, but you don't want them in your opening hand. So Bezel Ship, it will let you take stuff out of your opponent's graveyard by tributing itself, and then attaching something from your opponent's graveyard to an XYZ monster on your side of the field as material. Also, while it's in the graveyard, you can detach an XYZ material from an XYZ monster you control to special summon this card back. So it basically recurs itself in the grave, so you can use it twice in 1 turn. Its tribute effect helps you take stuff out of your opponent's graveyard, meaning that you can effectively turn off their stuff, and that is a quick effect, meaning you could potentially use it to stop any effects that might go off in grave for your opponent. Time Thief Chronocorder actually has a similar sort of thing where it has a tribute effect. Its tribute effect is that during your opponent's battle phase, as a quick effect, you can tribute this, and any battle damage you would take from the next attack is dealt to your opponent instead. And again, much like Time Thief Bezel Ship, Time Thief Chronocorder has a effect which brings it back from the grave, which is if a XYZ monster is special summoned while it's in the graveyard, it will special summon itself back to the field. But if it is banished, it is then banished when it leaves the field. So again, you could then overlay it to avoid that banishment, but typically it's not the end of the world if you do end up losing your Chronocorder in grave. You can keep doing stuff without it. That does it for our Time Thief monsters. Next on to some of the other level 4 monsters we run to help the deck work really well. The first is Summoner Monk. Summoner Monk is just really a generically useful level 4 normal summon for us. You can normal summon it, and then pitch a spell card to special summon a level 4 monster from the deck. Now, in some decks, this would pair up with something like Reborn Tengu, which I did attempt to try and make work with this deck. It didn't exactly pan out the way I was hoping, so I've taken Reborn Tengu out and replaced it with something else. But Summoner Monk can basically let us get to something like Time Thief Winder to let us see a search, and then we can go into other plays, our XC's plays that way, or it could let us get into something else that maybe we want to get on the field, like Chronocord or Bezel Ship, if we need them. Typically, though, you are going to be summoning Time Thief Winder off of your Summoner Monk. Another level 4 extender that we run is 3 copies of Dinotherium. Dinotherium is a level 4 monster that special summons itself from hand. You can only special summon itself once per turn. It doesn't have a restriction. It doesn't need to be you have no monsters in your field, nothing like that. Literally, if you have this in your hand, special summon it. It's just really generically useful card for us to have. When it is special summoned by this method, though, your opponent can select a level 4 monster in either player's graveyard and special summon it. So typically what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to special summon this before you put anything in your own grave, because otherwise your opponent will get a body on board and take something out of your graveyard. So you just need to be a bit wary of when you're going to special summon this, but this can definitely be a generic extender that does help the deck out, because as I say, all the XCs that we run in the extra deck are level 4. This is a level 4. All the other monsters we run so far are level 4. Next is XC's Slee Dolphin. So XC's Slee Dolphin, if you special summon an XC's monster while this is in your hand, you get to special summon this, so it's again just another extender for the deck. And if this is in the graveyard, when you XC summon, you can attach this to the XC's monster that was summoned as material. So this is really useful for us because it does allow us to put materials on Time Thief Redoer, but it also is really useful in the sense that what it does is it allows us to extend. Now, you can't attach it the same turn it's sent to the grave, so you're going to be able to extend one turn and then the next turn use it as material on something else. Now, there are some XCs that we run that the additional material means that you can use the effect multiple times, such as we do run Utopia the Lightning, so the extra material there would help being able to use his effect multiple times. Other than that, though, XC's Slee Dolphin is just a generically useful XC's based level 4. The final monster that we run in this deck, not level 4, is Paralell Exceed. Now, Paralell Exceed is a really interesting card because what it does is if you link summon, you get to special summon this card from your hand. Also, if this card is special summoned, you get to special summon one of these cards out of the deck. So this card will then allow basically become a level 4 body because it lowers its level to level 4 when it's special summoned by its own effect. And it will bring out another level 4 body, meaning that you do end up in a situation where you've got a rank 4 right on the field as long as you can link summon. There is a couple link monsters we tend to go into, so what I really like about this is it does allow us to go into those link monsters as long as we have one of these in our hand, and it allows us to get deeper into our link plays, which then helps support the XC's plays that we are generically trying to do with the deck. And that does it for our monsters. Onto our spells. We run quite a few spells in this deck. The reason is that we are running Summoner Monk, so we have several spells that we have more as discard fodder than anything else. However, they are very useful spells as well, so depending on the situation, they are all very useful cards for us to have, but the reason we run so many is so that we can utilize Summoner Monk more than anything else. The first spell we do run is Time Thief Startup. Now, Time Thief Startup is a really good card for the Time Thief archetype. What it does is it lets us special summon a Time Thief monster from our hand. While it is in the grave, we can banish it to attach to an Time Thief Xyz monster materials from the graveyard. So what it does is if there's a Time Thief spell, Time Thief trap, and Time Thief monster in your graveyard, you can banish this card and attach all 3 of them to one of your Time Thief Xyz monsters. You do need all 3 types to be in the grave to use this effect though, so it can sometimes be a little hard to set up, and you're probably not going to set it up turn 1. But later in the game, this can let you build a Redoer with 3 different kinds of materials, and Redoer, when he's got 3 different kinds of materials, he's a powerful boy. The next spell we run is Time Thief Hack. Time Thief Hack, I don't see it run in very many Time Thief builds that I've looked at. I'm not totally sure why. During the turn that an Xyz monster is special summoned, Time Thief Hack makes it so they can't be destroyed or targeted by card effects. So that means they have to be destroyed by battle. That's already kind of good because it forces your opponent to use their battle phase, which a lot of decks these days can wipe a board before they even get there. So Time Thief Hack forcing your opponent to utilize their battle phase is really interesting. The other thing is, on your turn, you can target an Xyz monster. That monster gains 300 attack for each material that's attached to it. If it's got a material attached that your opponent originally controlled, you then get to attack your opponent directly with your Xyz monster. So at the end of the day, this is a really good card for us because it does actually allow us to push for damage. It allows us to protect our own Xyz monsters. If we can special summon them on our opponent's turn, even better. And it puts us in a really good situation to control the board state. So I like Time Thief Hack. I run it at 2 because if I don't have to search for it with Winder, fantastic. If I have to, and I've got other cards and I don't need to search anything else with Winder, I will search this. This is a good card for us to search. On to some more generic spells that we run, again, partially to help out Summoner Monk, but also because they are generically good. The first is Xyz Reception. Xyz Reception is an extender for this card, for this deck. Think about it like a double summon almost. You activate this card, target a face-up monster that you control, special summon a monster from your hand with the same level. Now its effects are negated and its attack and defense are hit to 0. That's not the end of the world. You're typically linking it off or you're overlaying it into an Xyz monster. So Xyz Reception's limitation of turning an attack and defense to 0 and negating the effects really doesn't hurt the deck at all. Next we run some draw power. We run so many 3-ofs in the deck, we are now able to run Pot of Desires. I only run 2 copies in this build. Then I have several 1-of spells, which are really good. First is Twin Twisters. I'm only running 1 copy of that. Next is Monster Reborn. I can only run 1 copy of that. Followed by Regeki. And then another one that makes no sense that I can only run 1 copy of. But Called by the Grave. So these 4 cards just are really good cards. Board wipe, bring back monsters from the grave, stop your opponent's hand traps, get rid of back row. So front row, back row, recursion, graveyard. You're dealing with everything with these 4 cards. So again, generically useful spells, but at the same time, if I ended up with Summoner Monk and I have one of these in my hand, if I need the extension and I don't have anything else to pitch for Summoner Monk's cost, one of these 4 could hit the grave quite happily. That does it for the spells. On to the traps. So we're only running 6 traps in this deck. They are 3 copies of each Time Thief trap. So the first is Time Thief Flyback, which lets us target a Time Thief Xyz monster on our field, and then attach from our hand or deck, and let's be honest, it's going to be our deck, a Time Thief card to that Xyz monster as material. So you can then basically pick whatever Redoer effect you need by attaching that straight to Redoer. Also, while this card is in the graveyard, you can banish this card to attach a card from your opponent's graveyard to one of your Xyz monsters. So again, really useful. The only thing is, much like with the Thunder Dragons, you can only use 1 effect per turn. So you need to decide if you're going to use its activation on field effect to attach a trap, spell, or monster from your deck to your Time Thief Xyz, or you're going to need to banish it to attach a card from your opponent's graveyard. Finally, Time Thief Retrograde. This is such a useful card. It allows us to negate an opponent's spell trap and attach that spell trap to one of our Xyz monsters. So again, if you have a Redoer on field, you can attach it to your Redoer, and that gives your Redoer some of its other effects that don't come from just having monsters attached. So this can be really useful for us, because it also is a removal that doesn't let our opponent utilize any graveyard effects of their spell traps either. So it lets us stop our opponent's spell trap while not helping them set up their graveyard. That does it for the traps. So, Onto the extra deck. The first cards we're going to talk about in the extra deck are the Time Thief XCs that we talk about. We've talked about them quite a bit as we've gone along anyway. The first, though, is Time Thief Perpetua. Time Thief Perpetua is the Doctor's assistant in this fan fiction world, I guess. And what she does is, during the standby phase, you can detach a material from her to special summon a Time Thief monster from your graveyard. Also, as a quick effect, you can attach a Time Thief card from your deck to an Xyz monster you control. And that doesn't actually need to be a Time Thief Xyz, it can be any Xyz monster you control. Meaning that if you have an Xyz with a really powerful effect that you need to be able to get off on your opponent's turn, you could theoretically put materials on it to allow you to use its effect multiple turns in a row. So that can be really, really useful. Next is the boss monster for the deck, really, and that is Time Thief Redoer. Now, Time Thief Redoer is the Doctor, if we are attributing this to Doctor Who, which a lot of people do, and I totally understand why. Time Thief Redoer, during the standby phase, will attach the top card of your opponent's deck to him as material. Also, as a quick effect, he can detach up to 3 materials of different types from him, and then apply the effects based on what types of materials were detached from him. So if he detaches a monster, he banishes himself till the end phase. Meaning you can dodge effects, you can dodge battle, you can basically keep him safe so you can use him over and over and over again. If you detach a spell card from him, you get to draw a card. That's always nice. Draw power is a really good thing in this game these days, so drawing a card is good. If you detach a trap card, you get to place a face-up card on your opponent's side of the field back on top of their deck. So the benefit to this is, A, if it's just to get rid of a troublesome trap or a troublesome spell, then what you can do is place it back on top of your opponent's deck, and you know what kind of card you're going to attach to Time Thief Redoer the next turn. But you can also use this to get rid of extra deck monsters. Potentially things like Dragoon, which are protected from targeting and destruction. Time Thief Redoer can deal with that. If you detach a trap from Time Thief Redoer, you can put Dragoon back on top of your opponent's deck. That means back in the extra deck, guys. It's a good play. So, Time Thief Redoer is a really useful card, and it's got a really interesting way of outing opponent's stuff, because it doesn't actually destroy anything, and it doesn't necessarily take anything, but what it does do is it takes it off the field, and it does it in a non-targeting way. Now that we've talked about Time Thief Redoer and Time Thief Perpetua, the 2 Time Thief Xyz monsters we run in the deck, let's talk about the rank 4 toolbox we run. First is Light Dragon Addict Nister. Like Time Thief Redoer, it is a non-targeting, non-destruction removal, so really good for us. Next, Exciton Knight. This is a board wipe so long as we are losing the game and we don't have a big board presence like our opponent. Next is Abyss Dweller, turning off our opponent's graveyard. And finally, we run Steel Swarm Roach. Steel Swarm Roach will allow us to negate the special summon of a level 5 or higher monster. So that's really useful because of the fact that that can stop our opponents from extending into big boss monsters that could be troublesome. Now we do run one more rank 4, and that is number 39, Utopia. You'll notice we didn't run Double or Nothing in the main deck. You definitely could run the Double or Nothing package and go for Utopia double plays, but I typically just like to go into Utopia the Lightning. So I go number C39 overlays on top of number 39, and then I put number S39, Utopia the Lightning on top, allowing me to use Utopia the Lightning's effect twice. But with cards like Perpetua, I can actually potentially use Utopia the Lightning's effect several times, turn after turn after turn, if our opponent can't find a way to get rid of our Perpetua. Now, this deck does have a really big boss monster that could potentially be used in this deck in the future, and that is the AA Zeus card coming out of the Phantom Rage set next week. I think that's going to be really expensive, so I'm probably not going to be running it, but it is definitely an option you could consider running in this deck if you wanted to take something else out of the extra deck to make room for it. The first Xyz monster that we run is Armalier the Star Leader Dragon. What this card does is it lets us special summon a monster from our hand as long as it matches the level of a monster this card points to. So if you have this on the field and you have a level 4 underneath it, you can activate its effect and special summon and another level 4 from the hand, allowing us to go into Xyz's play. So it's just an extender for us. But it's not the best extender. The best extender we run, actually, is Bujinki Ahashima, which is the Bujin link, which is also the generic Xyz link. What this card lets us do is it lets us special summon from the graveyard and from our hand a monster of the same level and then instantly overlay them. So this can be really good. The only problem is it does then lock you into Xyz plays, so you can no longer go into any of your other link plays. So typically, if I have the capability to do this, I will actually go IP Masquerena first. Then I will go into Bujinki Ahashima, use Bujinki Ahashima to set up the plays and go into my Xyz plays, and then on my opponent's turn, I can use IP Masquerena and Bujinki Ahashima to link summon into Crusadia Mekk-Knight Avermax, or Mekk-Knight Crusadia Avermax. This is my favorite card of all time, and so you'll see it in a lot of my profiles. If you haven't seen other things on this channel, I do recommend checking them out, but I do love this card, and I run it in pretty much everything, and the reason is it's just so good. In this deck, it's really useful because it does then protect your Xyz monsters, so you can utilize Redoer's effects several times over and over and over again. You can take cards off of your opponent's deck, taking options away from them with your Redoer, and they are going to be protected from battle because your opponent's going to need to get rid of this before they can get rid of them. So this then becomes your opponent's priority, and your spells and traps will help your Redoer do a lot of damage to your opponent. Getting into this with the IP play can be a little difficult. You need to have several extenders in your hand. Typically, the best play for you is to normal summon Regulator and go into basic combo there, which you can see in the test hands video, which a link to that will be down in the description below, to get your Perpetua and your Redoer on the field at the same time. However, Mekk-Knight Crusadia Avermax on top of that is a really, really nice play, and you can do it if you have the right extenders. So that does it for the extra deck. So what do I actually think about this deck? Well, I think the deck isn't super competitive. It's not going to go to a YCS and win a YCS. It's not going to go to a Regionals and win a Regionals. First of all, they're not happening right now. Second of all, it's just not that great of a deck. But it does allow us to run a rank 4 toolbox, which can be really vital and really useful. And with cards like Regulator, which act as a 1-card play starter for the whole deck, and extenders like Time Thief Winder and Time Thief Chronocorder and Bezel Ship, the deck can definitely get into its plays relatively consistently, which is really nice. Also, you can sometimes do it without your normal summon if you get Time Thief Startup in your opening hand, because Time Thief Startup can get you your Regulator on board. Your Regulator can then do its Rescue Rabbit thing and get yourself Winder and Bezel Ship. Winder and Bezel Ship can then link off into the Bujin link, and then so on and so forth, and you just keep spiraling from there. The trap cards are really good because they deal with helping you remove stuff from your opponent's board without targeting it, and also do it in a way that benefits us because of the fact that it lets our Xyz monsters see additional power and additional bonuses. Speaking of, Time Thief Perpetua giving us recursion from our grave and also setting up our Redoer, making him more powerful, is really good. And Time Thief Redoer letting us take stuff off our opponent's board without targeting it, and even take options out of our opponent's deck, can be extremely useful. The one thing I do love about this deck is it does allow us to run several different extenders, such as Summoner Monk and Paralell Exceed. These cards really do add to the consistency of the deck, and they make it so that the deck can definitely see its opening play of Perpetua and Redoer in their opening turn quite consistently. If you would like to see the deck in action, I would recommend checking out the test hands video. The link to that will be down in the description below as soon as it goes live later this week. I would also like to thank you guys for watching. Do make sure you leave us a like, comment, and subscribe, and definitely do subscribe. We're almost at 100, and as I say, when we get to 100, I'm going to tell you guys how you can be part of this channel, and how your deck can be featured right here. So, leave us that like, leave us that comment, and definitely do subscribe. And I will see you guys at the next video.